Hard mode activated. We are two best friends who happen to be psychic mediums.
We do readings, we teach, we mentor, and we love to laugh.
Yeah, and you know what? We love to cry too, because we're heartstring pulling leather truckers.
Warning, this is rated E for explicit, so if you don't like the word fuck, you should probably turn your ass around.
Turn it around. Don't look back, run. But if you're sticking around, it's time for another episode of I'm a Medium.
Ask me how.
Hey, Willie.
What's up, Tao?
Oh, that's talent. Ready?
We got our beverages. I got my watermelon kombucha. You've got your 7th protein drink of the day.
Girl, I'm all about getting swole.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting swole for spirit. That's my goal.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. When the rapture comes, I want like that to happen and be like, oh, you look real good.
Mm-hmm. They're like, you definitely have enough protein to come here.
I want to be strong for the apocalypse.
Yeah. Yay!
This is what happens when Matt watches The Last of Us.
This is where our head is. Yeah. Welcome to Mediumship, kids.
I'm your tour guide, Maddie Wonka.
Maddie Wonka. Except you can't have sugar here.
Nope.
Not in Maddie land. No.
Ain't enough quarters for this ride.
We will not talk about quarters on the podcast.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I know.
Well.
Okay, the podcast is over. No, I'm just kidding. Matt just quit the podcast, everybody. Sorry.
I don't have enough sugar in my life. I'm sorry.
Well, Matt, do you want to dive into this week's topic?
I think we should dive in. I think we should put our snorkel mask on. I think this one's going to be kind of an epic podcast. I don't think we've done one kind of like this before. But I think there have been little dips and drops from previous podcasts. So if you want to go into specifics, you can go back and you can listen to other ones. But we just want to talk about confidence and mediumship. And like when we feel underconfident, or what behaviors or what are some signs of an underconfident medium, so that way we can always self-improve. Because I think self-improvement and development as mediums is super important. You always say it, so go ahead and say it.
Yeah, we're always developing. We're there. If you're looking at this as a finish line, or I've hit my finish line, then you're in the wrong job. This is not what you're meant to be doing. We're always growing. We're always learning with spirit. I feel like with every reading I do, I learn something. It's always an opportunity. Every time I sit with spirit, every time I do anything, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. And with what Matt and I are going to talk about today, this isn't a judging podcast. This is a podcast for you to maybe see some things and be like, oh, I recognize that. I see that. And some ways that we can fix them or adjust or see opportunity in ways that we can approach them when they do pop up.
Right. And we're educating mediums. Like, we like to educate a lot. So like, it's just being self-aware and kind of understanding where we're at. And I think always knowing that we have a place to grow. And trust me, I'm guilty about, like, because we're going to do 10 of them. I'm guilty about 9 of them sometimes. Mm-hmm. It happens. But I think always being self-aware and always leaving space to improve, or self-recognition of being like, yeah, I got to work on that. That's something that I didn't know that, right? So these are the top 10 things that me and Dina compiled to help you guys push your mediumship forward to the place where you want to be.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that, Matt. I do just want to hone back in on that word awareness, because I think that that's one of the key things that we can do in our mediumship journey, is just simply have awareness of where we're at. Not awareness in a judgy kind of way of like, I'm not where I need to be, or but just being aware of where our opportunities are, where our strengths are, where we are in our journey. That's it. And it's not a judgy place, but just having simple awareness of where we're at. And when we do have struggles, where we're at in those struggles and what we can do with them. So that's what we hope to do with our top 10 list of signs of an unconfident medium.
I'm dancing for you, Willie, because this is exciting for me.
If you're excited like us, move your shoulders, do a shoulder
Oh,
dance.
oh yeah. All right, cool. So let's start with 10 and work our way up to 1. How's that?
Ooh. All
I think
right.
that's the rhyme and reason we're going. All right, so number 10 is making it about us.
Mhm.
Making it about us. Mediumship is never about us, right, Willie?
It's never about us. That's not why
Mhm.
we do this. If you're doing mediumship to make yourself feel special, run, run.
Mhm. Or even inserting ourselves into the reading, right?
Mhm.
And so it could be like talking about our life experience or bringing facts about us or interpreting the evidence to fit our story and our narrative. There's so much that you could just nuance in making it about us, but at the end of the day, I think what's the most important thing about a mediumship reading is not even about how the medium can perform per se, but the love between the spirit communicator and the person receiving the reading.
Right.
And I think a lot of the times when I see underconfident mediums, we overcompensate, right? Because we don't know what's important and what's not important.
Mhm.
So we add ourselves in to try to like bridge the gaps between evidence to keep a conversation flowing,
Mhm.
right? And the silence is where it really kind of gets to us, where we're like, say something good.
And we get uncomfortable with that silence sometimes, I
Mhm.
think, as mediums. And it's one of the big reasons I always encourage people to watch their readings back, because
Yeah.
very often as mediums we think that silence is minutes long, when very often
Mhm.
it's much shorter. So we're very self-critical in those times, thinking that, whoa, man, I'm not saying anything, so we feel like we have to fill things in, or we flow into story time.
Yeah.
Bringing our own interpretation on a piece of evidence when that's really not what that evidence was about. And so, that's danger zone, right? And that can really
Mhm.
derail what started out as a beautiful connection. And we have to remember too, people will book with you or want to have a mediumship reading with you because they think you're going to do a great job in connecting them with their loved one. They're not really that interested in connecting with you, the medium. They just want a
Yeah.
great connection with their loved one. That's what it's
Mhm.
about. It's not about you. It's about their connection with their loved one.
Yes, and I will go to the grave. You know what, Dana Willie, I want this. I want this carved on my headstone.
Oh, okay.
You're just the mailman,
Mhm.
right? We're just there to deliver what we get. And I think like interpreting evidence can also be us as well. I think this kind of can be very broad stroked about making it about us. I think there's a couple things too that could be like checking our ego, being self-aware of where our ego is. So an overactive ego or an underactive ego. um, uh, Overactive ego is where we're like, I'm the best, I'm the best, and then an underactive ego is like, I suck, right?
I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
Right. I just want you to be at the place where you're balanced, of being like, it just did. I went the way it went. It went
Mhm.
the way it went. I did what I needed to do, but it wasn't about me.
Mm.
It's not, I stepped out of the way and was like, cool, you let it fall. Because trust me, we learn from every reading. We learn from every reading. We
Mhm.
learn from every reading. I can't say it enough. I get excited about this. Like you learn
Mhm.
from every reading. So is
Well,
there
and it's
anything else?
that pendulum too, of remembering that we are going to have those swings. And I want to just
Hmm.
normalize that you're going to have those swings, of where you're going to have readings where you're like, that was an amazing reading. And you're going to have readings that weren't home runs. But we never want that pendulum swinging so big and far. We want to be as balanced as we can. We don't want to over celebrate those great readings, and we don't want to over be critical of the readings where we don't connect, but we want to be balanced within as much as possible. Again, keeping our ego or our need to be great out of the whole process.
So humble,
Mm-hmm.
being centered is great. I love it, Dana
Mm-hmm.
Willie. Number 9, avoiding development.
Yeah.
And that can be for two reasons. One would be like for me, I don't know, I always find avoiding development is like the fear of being wrong,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we don't go to development because we don't want to go be wrong, and we don't want to put ourselves in a position that could make us look bad or be unsafe. So we
Yeah.
avoid development, and we're always consistently on that same level, and we're not moving ourselves forward with
Mhm.
education. Education is power,
Mhm.
and power and knowledge is power. So like empowering yourself to want to stretch can also be a sign of an underconfident medium.
Mhm.
um, the other part for me on this would be is finding that you are complete. You don't need any more. You're mucho good out. Like
Mhm.
you feel like that you've hit that glass ceiling and it's done. Like
Mhm.
you can't break through it. And it can go both ways as well. I don't know. What about for you about like a development?
I think a lot of people fear development or avoid development because they are afraid of being wrong, right? I think a lot of us want this so badly, and then to have somebody think that they're a fraud or that they don't have this, like, would break our hearts, right? Like,
Hmm.
and then to get the no or get or not connect breaks our hearts because we want this so bad, right?
Yeah.
And so we avoid that development piece. It gets us out of our comfort zone too, right? Like,
Hmm.
and we have to remember that change is uncomfortable, and very often in development we're learning, and we have to
Hmm.
remember that in learning and growing we're not meant to know everything. That's why we go to learn and grow, right? We're not
Hmm.
supposed to get straight A's in development. We're supposed to grow and learn and make mistakes and fall down and then get back up. And with the right places for development, the right classes, the right circles, the right places for that, you will be in a supportive place to do that and grow. I also recommend, obviously Matt and I have our own spaces that we offer for development, but find other spaces too. Find who you resonate with. Find places that feel safe to you. Find places that you're like, I want to be challenged in this way. For
Hmm.
instance, like, Matt and I are going to Arthur Finley in October for trance mediumship. It's a different level or a different thing, a different aspect of mediumship that neither one of us have fully explored before, with a different teacher that neither one of us have ever worked with before. So what I would ask of you, if you kind of feel like you've hit like a roadblock, because sometimes we can feel like that too, like, I feel like
Hmm.
I've gotten as much as I can from this teacher, or I feel like I've gotten as much as I can from this space. Is there another aspect that you can look at? Is there a new teacher that you can work with? Is there a new space that you can work from to continue to develop? Where can you move yourself out of your comfort zone
Hmm.
to expand and grow? Because that's where we expand and grow, is when we're out of our comfort zone.
Are you psychic? Because you read my mind, girl. Because I was about to piggyback off of you and be like, you know what? Sometimes it's not just about mediumship. It's like learning another tool in your toolbox will help you feel more confident.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm at this point within my mediumship readings where I'm like, you get what you get. But maybe it's like, maybe that person that booked with you does not need a mediumship reading. Maybe they need a psychic reading,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just me like getting more tools in your toolbox is not a bad thing. It makes it boost your confidence a lot of being like numerology, Reiki, uh, trance healing, seances, you name it, whatever you're going to do, paranormal investigation, whatever you're going to go after, it's just another aspect and a tool that you can use. And what's really funny, Dana, that I find with a lot of um, spiritual stuff is they're all connected.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
They're all connected. They all help each other.
yeah. And I think working on your psychism helps your
Hmm.
mediumship. A lot of people are
Oh.
like, a lot of people devalue psychism
Hmm.
in the mediumship community, and I hate that. I really hate how psychic stuff is devalued in the mediumship community, because
Hmm.
we are psychics. So it's like, how are you guys doing that? And what it does is it actually helps you strengthen your clairs, and it makes you a better medium.
Hmm.
A lot of mediums that are, you're one of those people that are just like, you are more naturally drawn to mediumship over psychic work.
Yeah.
um, but I've seen what working on your psychism stuff has done for your mediumship. It's made you a better medium because you've
Yeah.
strengthened your psychism.
I start calling things at times now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, I'm gonna call this at February blah 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 at 6 o'clock. This is gonna happen.
And it
And it
does.
does. But psychism is so fun and it's so underrated. So
Mhm.
get yourself learning. Get those books open because you never know.
Yeah,
You
and
never
you know
know.
what? One more thing on this is, like,
Mhm.
even reading a book on a subject that you already agree on, or that you already know some things about, you may not agree on this on what you're learning from somebody else, but sometimes that can help you learn more too, because you're more fully ingrained in what you believe and what you understand.
Ooh.
So, the more people you can learn for, the more you know, shooting star, shooting star, shooting star, right?
Mhm.
So, be on the path of forever learning. When you stop avoiding development and avoiding growth, you're the world is your oyster.
Yeah. Mhm. I agree with you. Um, so number 7,
Number
I'm
we're
gonna
on number 8.
oh, we are on 8? Okay. Relying on one Claire.
Mhm.
Relying on one Claire. Number 7, I'm changing it on the list. Don't you worry, girl.
Okay.
I'm making a note of it. But number 8 is relying on one Claire. A lot of uncomfortableness happens in mediumship. And I think when we kind of put mediumship in a box of how it should work
Mhm.
and how it works for us,
Mhm.
it limits the information that rolls through. So when spirit switches stuff on us, we don't recognize it because we're like, I'm not seeing anything, so it must be turned off. But you actually are putting so much stress on that, of being like, well, I'm not seeing anything, so I must be off today, that maybe they're trying to hit you with something else. So, like, learning to relax
Mhm.
and being okay with whatever happens. And if nothing happens, that's great too. But not just sticking to just one Claire.
Yeah.
I see a lot of underconfident mediums, or learning and developing mediums as well, and that's cool too. It doesn't mean that you're unconfident. You're working in progress. Is that they just rely on one,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you've got them all. They're just not actively firing at the same time or at the same level
Mhm.
as the one that you're used to relying on.
I love when a medium will layer their clairs, where
Hmm.
they're going to see something, and that seeing something makes them feel something. And maybe they're hearing something or a vibration in their body, or like they're getting all of these different things kind of all on this. Like, if you think of it as a 3D or 4D like piece of information, because they're seeing it, they're hearing it, they're feeling it, right? And I
Hmm.
think it brings such a more multitonal piece of evidence, multi-layered piece of evidence that we can really lean into and draw more from. So the more that we're well-rounded in our clairs and not overly dependent on one, I think that makes us a better medium, and I think it makes us able to speak to more spirit communicators.
Hmm.
The other thing that I always lean on and was such a eye opener for me is, like, we have to remember that everybody in the spirit world is a person. Okay, think of them as a person and not as a wooey wooey ghost that we can't.
Ooh,
Right? Think of
spooky.
them as a person, and every person communicates differently. Right?
Hmm.
There are people that are very quiet and they don't really speak up and they don't talk a lot. But then you've got the talkers, and all they want to do is yap, 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 yap. And then you've got very visual people. And then you got people who aren't visual at all. There's people in there that don't see anything in their head. Like, you tell them to visualize an apple and they can't visualize an apple, right?
Hmm.
So spirit is just like that. You may get a spirit who was not visual at all, and they're not going to give you any visualizations at all, but they're going to be great at, like, talking to you. So you've got to be able to have that well-roundedness. And so when you've got a talker, they can talk to you. When you've got somebody who's visual and great at giving you visuals, you're ready for that. When you give somebody who's, like, really great at letting you feel emotion, you're ready for that. So you have that dynamicness about yourself in your mediumship. And that kind of loops back to the development again.
Yeah. So stop relying on that body. I know I said it in another podcast, but stop
Yeah.
relying on that one because you got them all. I love that, Dana Willie. Okay, number 7. We're on 7 now, right?
Mhm.
I just talked to deaf people. I went to art school. I can't do math very well. Always being on, always having the ability to walk around to being on. I find that underconfident.
Mhm.
That's just me because it's almost like you don't trust yourself.
Mhm.
You don't trust that they're going to show up when you need to show them up. show up, right? And then we're always searching to see if it still happens. Trust that they'll show up. But
Mhm.
I think the first way that you can fix this is super easy. Turn off,
Mhm.
set boundaries, create an on and off switch. You deserve to be a person in this world. You don't always need to be that medium that walks around being like, hello, is it me or but okay, yeah, copyright. But you get the point, right? We want to make sure that we're living our life, all right? And the only way that we're gonna know if it doesn't happen is if we just shut off. And I
Mhm.
can tell you, they always show up.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. There's practice in that, right? So
Hmm.
go ahead and shut off. Use a day of completely shutting off. See what happens,
Hmm.
and then intentionally open up and say, "I
Hmm.
want you to show up right here and right now." Show up
Yeah.
and just see. And guess what? Spirit always shows up. They always show up when you ask them to show up. It's a shift in awareness. They're around us all the time. It's the thing that happens of like, this spirit's been with me all day and it's been bugging me. No, your awareness has just been open 24/7 to
Yeah.
be there. I never, to me, that does it does often speak of underconfidence, because no, you haven't been they haven't been annoying you all day. Your awareness has just been open all day. So there's a difference.
Yeah. I think there's two types. Okay. So I think there's two types of the situation going. I think there's conscious and subconscious, right? So I think there's conscious walking around knowing that you're open and you're doing it,
Mhm.
right? But I think also sometimes there's subconscious insecurity, right? So
Mhm.
like your insecurity is going to dip into something. So I think when we get hits out in public, that's our subconscious mind and our insecurity, and you can't control that, but you can work on the conscious one. And I
Yep.
think when we work on the conscious one, the subconscious one will be like, no, she got this. We're
Mhm.
good, right? But the fear of not performing and the fear of that going away, it's going to get better as you work and as you set boundaries and as you have that stuff. So
Yep.
stop. Yeah.
Well,
So
and just to, as to, so spirit is so intelligent that they're going to
mhm.
know that you have a reading with their loved one in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And
Hmm.
if you let them, they'll hang out with you that long.
Hmm.
They certainly will. I mean, we had readings today, and I was in the shower, and I was, I was drifting off into my shower land, and I felt one
Your
of them come in. You,
your conference
my
calls.
conference calls, my shower / conference calls, but my awareness was shifted,
Hmm.
and one of them popped in, and I just said, "Yep, cool. You are back in the waiting room. Thank you." I had a choice at that moment to lean further into that. Like, okay,
Hmm.
I could have sat there with that spirit and said, "Okay, give me more, 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 give me more." But what would that have served?
Hmm.
And I think that, and often what Matt and I will teach is like, oftentimes, especially when we are early on in our development, there's so many of us who think we've gone crazy because we can't validate anything that's coming through. We're
Hmm.
just gathering all of these images and these feelings and these facts and figures. And we're like, but who does this belong to? Who is this for? Am I making this up in my head? And we start spinning, and then we spin into story time, and then we go into this whole thing,
Hmm.
and then we spin into self doubt, which messes with our ego and this whole thing. So it's just better. And what we recommend is not pre-linking and just
No.
saying, "Oh, I kind of feel who you are. I'm just going to put you back in my waiting room." And then when you go into the reading space and you feel them pop in again, you can be like, "There you are." And then you can go. The thing to remember is, because some people think like, well, what if I forget to give the information? Spirit will
Mhm.
always make sure you give the information.
Yes.
Trust that. Trust that spirit is always going to make sure you say the thing they want you to say.
Hmm. Can I admit something while we're on this subject?
Sure.
So I tried one of Dana's conference calls in the shower, and I had my client's spirit pop in,
Hmm.
and we were just talking. I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm excited for our reading later. Okay, see you. Bye. But then I said that to my client. Bye. Your dead mom watched me naked. I was like, ooh, wording. So, but you know me, I make it awkward.
Yeah, usually I just let my spirit team in with, and that's the thing. Like those times are for me, but every once in a while,
Mhm.
like I said, today was a reading day for me.
Yeah.
So, spirit was like, "Oh, she's open. Oh, I'm so excited to talk to my loved one." And I just this nope.
Yeah.
Whether it's sitting in the power or my conference calls in my shower, this time is for me to talk to
Mhm.
my team, to talk to my people. I see that you're there. Thanks for popping in. Your appointment's at 2 o'clock. Bye bye.
Mhm. It's okay to acknowledge and move on. So I think it's a lot like sitting in the power with our
Mhm.
thoughts, right? Acknowledge and say that's not important right now. I'm going to be doing this right now.
Yeah.
And that's also learning how to shift your awareness too. So you got this. Continue sitting in the power, building that shift in awareness. That will help you also stay on and off.
Yeah.
So
And just trust that
yeah.
spirit will always show up when it's time for them to show up. And they're always going to give you the right pieces of information. So sitting down and writing a bunch of stuff out prior to a reading, trust. Trust. This is me telling you, trust. If it's important, they're going to tell you.
Yes.
They're going to make sure you
Yes.
say it.
But here's the deal too that I really want to drive home because you said something real fucking good and I want to piggyback off that. If you're pre-linking and you're not saying it during the reading, you're also not feeling the power, and you build a power and it feels different and you get more emotion and you get this beautiful reading because you're truly saying what they want you to say in the moment, and you don't know where else it's going to go, right? But when we pre-link and write this elaborate notes, we're not essentially going to build the power to see what's actually on the table.
Yeah.
Your readings will look different and they'll feel different and you'll feel more confident. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Well, and we're going to go into this just a little bit more.
Oh.
With the pre-link, our human brain wants to put things in sequential order. It wants to make sense of how the information is coming through,
Mhm.
right? We want to put it into this nice, cute little order. Well, spirit doesn't talk like that. Spirit knows that I've got 15 minutes to deliver this message, and I'm going to do it as concisely and perfect as I need to. We've got to trust the spirit world. They are intelligent. They know that the order that they're going to give it, and they're going to jump around and they're going to be all over the place. It's not meant to make sense in our human mind. And when we
Mm-mm.
pre-link and when we're looking and reading off of our notes, our human mind is deciphering which thing to read off of our list first, which is more important, and trying to put it into some kind of chronological make sense in my human world. And it loses that power even more.
Yes, you're actually going into number 6, which is honesty, wording, and messages.
Oh, see, it's like I knew it. Am I
Mhm.
psychic?
Mm,
Maybe,
yeah, all right.
maybe she's born with it.
So, honesty, wording, and messages, right? So, saying things as you're getting them will help build you confidence, and taking the risk of saying them when you're supposed to say them, and not holding it back and misinterpreting. If I'm saying taco, imagine Dana's son coming to me and I'm like, taco. He's like, that's my mom. But for me, I'm like, what the fuck is she bringing up Taco Bell? Right? I don't know what's important, but being honest, honesty is always key. Integrity is all you got, folks. And so you never want to put something in spirit's mouth that they haven't said. And the only way that you're going to know that is if you're actually building the power live in the moment and not pre-linking, right? Because when I hit like the ultimate power, when I'm in that sweet motherfucking spot of pure love and glory,
Mhm.
they know I know what I'm gonna say is gonna come through. My tone changes, my vibe changes, everything changes. But I got to take that risk by saying the things that I know that might possibly be wrong. I'm being inspired by spirit. Inspired being the key word here, but I've got to be honest. So if I'm like feeling an emotion and they're not saying it, but they're making me feel it, I'm always being honest and saying, they're not putting this in my mouth, but I feel this. Would you understand this? And if they're like, no, cool, I'm like, but this is making me feel this way. So let me go back and feel into it again. Um, and so like when you're also forcing messages too, because everybody wants to hear that their loved one loves them, right? We always want to hear like, yeah, grandma loves you. If you told me my grandma loved me, I'd be like, I don't know the fuck you're talking to. My grandma would never say that to me, right? It can come off as disingenuous. So only saying the things that you know are linked to evidence in messages, or because messages aren't evidential. They're not, you can say whatever you want, but it will fall in, and spirit's very intelligent, remember? So it will fall in at the perfect moment, and it's usually when you're at the peak of your power.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually when they're like, yeah, because they also do this thing to me. I don't know if they do this to you, where it's like when I'm at the peak of my power, my body goes numb and I get tingles, and it's almost like I can feel them being like, yeah, motherfucker. When you say the right thing, it's like your body
Yeah.
reacts, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And so the only way that we can do that and feeling confident in that is taking the risk to be honest in our wording and our messages.
Well, and it's just going back to your mailman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm just going to get you a hot mailman to put on your headstone.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we have
Can
to
you
just go ahead.
can you put I got your package? Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Done. We just went somewhere else. No, but we
Okay.
just have to be the mailman and give what we are getting.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Not put our own spin on it, not try to put anything more on it. Not We just have to come forward authentically. That's, I
Yeah.
think, such an important key. And you can tell when somebody has put something inauthentic in on a message, on a reading. And it's my biggest pet peeve as a medium and as an educator, is when I see somebody delivering like this beautiful evidential reading, and it's like, yes, nail, nail, nail. Yep. Yes, yes, yes. And then they put like this hokey, like, they loved you very much, or they're very sorry. And you can just tell there was no power in the message, and that it felt inauthentic. And you can tell how the sitter is like,
Mm-hmm.
we have to make sure that everything is authentic to what spirit would say, to what we are feeling. And as long as you stay true to that, you're golden. But as soon as you try to insert it or try to make something it's not meant to be, people will pick that up from a mile away.
Mm-hmm. What's really funny is every time I see this, I say I have the same visual. So the picture of a soccer player, and they're running up to the ball, and they're looking real confident, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna kick this ball real far," and then they get to the ball, and then they kick it, and it just goes. Pew, 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 pew. It just like goes 2 feet. Like that's what it feels like when we give an authentic messages. It's like we feel the build up and then flat, right? It's like, oh man. And so the room feels it. A good mediumship reading should move the room. It should move and inspire everybody, whether it's excitement, whether it should have some heart to it.
Mm-hmm.
So being honest and integrity, and kind of having the confidence to be like, I got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They just showed up, and they just want me to let you know that they're here.
Yeah.
And that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That is okay. That is okay. Matthew Tao, am telling you that's fine.
I, Dana Willey, am saying, please, please, if they are not giving a message, don't give a message.
Yes. Yes.
I've seen so many beautiful mediumship readings go wrong, and it invalidates the entire reading when
And
you
you
give
beat
an
yourself up,
authentic message.
and you're afterwards beating yourself up, being like, I shouldn't have said that, and I'm never going to do it again, right? Just be confident of being like, this is what I'm getting, this is not what I'm getting. Great.
You don't have to tie everything up in a pretty little bow at the end.
Statements versus questions. Number 5.
Number 5. Oh, be aware of your wording, my love bugs.
Yeah.
When we ask questions, and you can even hear it in the tone of people's voices, right? So I feel like this is a mom.
Would you understand she likes roast beef?
Why am I seeing tacos?
Yeah. But like you just need to say what you get confidently and be okay with being wrong. So we can practice. Tina, will you want to practice number 5 with me?
I love practicing.
Okay, because we kind of talked about like the roast beef, but more like, hey Dina, I'm seeing tacos. Would you understand you have a loved one on the other side with tacos?
Yes.
Right? I'm seeing tacos. Now, and this is also misinterpreting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that also goes into this as well, of being like, I'm seeing tacos, but it could be that the tacos are wrapped, or would you understand they like soft or crunchy? And it's questioning rather than giving factual statements of what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
Because spirit will inspire you for the next piece and the next piece. But when we get hung up on that we are suiting ourselves, right? Because
Mhm.
we're unconfident of what we're getting. So then we're going to ask it in a question, and that could also be perceived as fishing.
Mhm.
And we don't want fishing, no cold reading. So when we give it with statements, it's more like, I'm just going through my experience with spirit. They're inspiring me to say this. So I'm going to say it to you and be okay with being wrong.
Mhm.
Boom, boom,
Yep.
boom. And it has more of a confidence to it,
Yep.
right? But when we're like, do you understand tacos?
Yeah.
Right? It feels like you're just kind of being like, okay, and your power goes
Yeah.
like a completely deflated soccer ball.
Mhm.
It's now flat on the field. So being okay with giving it statements, and they should be yes, no, or I don't know.
As what the sitter gives back. So what I
Hmm.
like to do is I get weak in this sometimes, but I even a question should sound confident, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
She's bringing me to tacos. She's got I'm seeing tacos in front of me. Do you understand why I'm being brought to tacos? State it. I'm seeing tacos, and not going into I just I've seen tacos at Taco Bell. Sometimes I see tacos at Mexican restaurants. Do they have tacos at Long John
Hmm.
Silver's? Like,
Hmm.
no, stop. Just say you saw tacos. Let the sitter validate yes or no, because then that's when you're going to get your next piece of information, but not trying
Yes.
to overly interpret why are you seeing tacos.
Hmm. I pull a Teresa Caputo now with my questions. You know what I do?
Hmm.
Who's a taco lover? Why am I seeing tacos? That sounds more confident, right?
Hmm.
And so it's kind of being a way to ask questions as a statement, but also asking the question.
Yeah.
Because it almost feels like when they refer to something like the tacos, like, okay, I'm going to use tacos. I'm so sorry, people. But the taco question, it's like it'll feel either ownership or non ownership, right? It'll feel like they're talking about it themselves or they're talking about it and referring it to somebody
Yeah.
else. And it will feel different.
Hmm.
So it's like if you
If
are
it's
trying to
my
figure out,
tacos or your tacos.
yes. Yeah. So I can be like, who's a taco lover? Showing me tacos doesn't feel like him. Who's a taco lover? Okay, you are? Okay, great. And now he's recognizing you. It feels more confident
Hmm.
and it's so fun to do. I love doing it. Thanks, Caputo. But it really has changed my mediumship in a little bit of a way of giving that, of being like, who's getting married? Where's the baby? Who has a baby? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep, she wants to meet or no. She knows the baby. And sometimes it can be overconfident, right? But it's like learning that I'm only going to do that when I built the power.
But that's you feeling you see a baby and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
because I know I do this, right? Like if they're mentioning a
Mm-hmm.
baby, I'm like, is this your baby? And they'll be like, they'll put it like if it's somebody here on earth, they'll put the baby in front of me. That I know
Mm-hmm.
that the baby belongs to somebody on earth. So it's a way of like being like, okay, it belongs out here. What are you doing?
I want that on a t-shirt. Is it your baby?
Is this like Maury Povich of the spirit world? He is not the father.
You are not the spiritual father. But
but
that's awesome.
but
That's
that's how I
cool.
see, and or they'll say like if it's some attached to somebody in spirit, or if it's one of her kids, I will feel it under her, and then I'll see it here on earth. But
Yeah.
they will make you feel who it's kind of in general applies to, and then we can kind of feel into that and be like, I feel like I got to talk about tacos, but this isn't about her liking tacos. This is about somebody that would have been one of her kids that liked tacos. Which one of them liked tacos? And we can talk
Yeah.
about it like that, and it brings some personality to the reading. It brings confidence to the reading, and it's beautiful.
I love it.
But yes, over interpreting, asking questions, not stating things confidently is it really, I think too, even if in our bodies we're like, I'm totally unconfident, I'm totally freaking out. Even if we state it confidently, that's going to help us turn that around, right? Of having
Hmm.
that self-awareness of like, maybe I'm walking into this reading not as confident as I should be. If I go into that reading unconfidently stating or putting things out there or saying like, do you understand tacos? That's going to more feed into that unconfidence, right? But if I go in like, nope, I'm just going to give what I get, I'm going to be okay with being wrong, and I'm going to state everything that I have, it switches your brain around to being more confident.
I'm going to ask a question. You don't have to answer this. Okay. When we do that, when we like second guess ourselves, are we mistrusting ourselves? Are we mistrusting the spirit world? Are we mistrusting the view of the person that's receiving the reading? I'm going to leave you folks to listen to that. Okay. You can answer that in the comments, right? But it really is true, right? So when we second guess ourselves and we don't give things as statements, but we're internally struggling with it, just know, are you insecure? You need to find this out. You need to dig. This is part of like your work. Are you unconfident with the spirit world giving you the information? Are you unconfident in yourself interpreting the evidence? Are you unconfident on the judgment that you're going to receive from somebody else? Right? At the end of the day, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? No.
Yep.
That's cool.
Get your journal out on that last question Matt asked you.
Yeah.
Dive into that.
Yeah. Dive into it. Dive into it. Because when you actually find out the answer to 1, 3, you got a direction where you can work on it. Because maybe if the sitter is judging you, maybe they're not the right client for you. Okay. Because skepticism, you're going to have to get used to. It's part of the job. Sorry, I love you, but you can't avoid that. If it's unconfident in the spirit world, you can work towards that confidence by just giving what you get, right? If it's unconfidence for yourself, get into development, work on it, journal. What are you unconfident about? What is it that needs to work? So you can go 3 ways with that.
Absolutely. Love that.
Which leads me to number 4, Dana Willey.
Self-praise and self-deprecating.
Self-deprecation.
Yeah. It's that ego again popping up. I mean, let's be honest. The ego is if there is a worst enemy in mediumship, it's ego.
Let's just loop 3 into knowing where the ego is, and because number 3 and number 4 are going to go together.
Oh, I totally jumped. But they do. They go together. The ego is not a bad thing, guys. Like the ego is part of us being human. A lot of people will be like, I need my ego to go away. No, you're human. Egos keep us safe. They keep us from getting into danger. There's a lot of reasons that you have your ego here, but keeping the ego in check as a medium is our biggest thing that we've got to do. And I'll tell you what, when you start getting good at mediumship and you start having a lot of success as a medium, it's hard to keep that ego in check.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of people telling you how great you are and how amazing you are and all of that. It's a real thing. So you have to keep yourself grounded. You have to keep your awareness. And then and I got to tell you guys, as soon as that ego is going up, and even if it's not other people telling you how great you are, you may have a string of like development circles where you're just nailing it and you're linking up and you're like, I got this figured out. I'm amazing. And then you go to the next one and you don't. And you crash and burn and you're not linking to anything and it's nothing but no's. When your ego's up that high because everybody's been telling you how great you are or you've been doing so amazing and then all of a sudden it's you crash and burn. Oh, the crash and burn's bad.
Oh, and why do you think you crash and burn? Because Spirit's like, fuck you. Right? Because they also want us centered as well. They want us balanced. They want us really, really balanced. And I think also watching our readings back as well, of not being self-critical, but what we're wording and how we're saying it, and being aware, and even looking at, like, I know we look at other mediums as well because we love mediumship. It's just being conscious about wording, right? So like the self-praise, I'm going to go into that just for a quick second. Like, I think loving the spirit world is great, and we want to always put the spotlight on the spirit world. It is not about the medium being phenomenal, and it is not about that. It's about the love connection, right? And it's about us stepping out of the way. So I kind of like, if we're looking at it being like, oh my god, I'm so glad I stepped out of the way for that. I'm so glad that came through for you, and being excited about the actual interaction rather than what we did to perform through it. It's almost like when somebody says to you, well, if I'm being honest, I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, does that mean that you don't tell me the truth any other time? But like when we're like wowing ourselves during like evidence, we're not being fully in the present, in the moment of the actual reading. I think when we're doing validation, that's okay to say, because you're just like, oh my god, I'm so wowed with you. But kind of doing it in the middle of the reading can make you feel unconfident, and it takes you out of your active mind. I think
or puts you in your active mind.
Put you in your active mind. You want to be in your passive state. So like, I think when we kind of draw ourselves out of that passive state and we're more in our active mind interacting a lot, that's also can for me assigned as an unconfident medium, because we don't know how to stay in it, right? I think there doesn't need to be showmanship with mediumship. That's just me. If we're just kind of delivering what we get and we're in this moment, especially platform mediumship, um, of just kind of like holding space after to validate and then share the loved one and be excited for the person receiving the reading, because that's who needs that praise, that's who needs that love, that's who needs that relationship bonding. So always being aware of where ego is sliding
Mhm.
during a mediumship reading or during a place, but always tying it back to the spirit world and the relationship and the love and honor. Like there's reasons why I say that in my prayer, Dana Willie,
Mhm.
for the oh geez, now I don't even know my own prayer, but I say it because that's truly what
Mhm.
that is. It's setting the intention that it's not about me, it's about the love, loss, and life of those on the other side for the person that I'm reading for.
Well, and here's the thing, the evidence stands
Hmm.
on its own. You said it, if in
Hmm.
a platform setting, especially, if
Yeah.
the evidence is that amazing, everybody can see it. They don't need the medium pointing it out
Yeah.
how great it was. They just don't. And it just, again, it's a beating on the chest. Even if we are saying, look how great spirit is in that moment, we're taking ourselves out of the reading, the space of being in a receptive vessel for spirit, and it's pounding the chest a little bit. We have to make sure we're just continuing on and
Yeah.
staying balanced and just continuing to give what we get. And we afterwards we can be like, that was so cool how I got out of the way and I could deliver that evidence. That was a really cool piece of evidence that I was able to deliver.
Hmm.
But in the moment, it comes off very inauthentic, and it comes off, I don't know, it just I
Surprising,
and
you surprise yourself.
it's not about being able to pull out this amazing piece of evidence. It's
Hmm.
not. What it's about is it's proof of connection, right? It's
Yeah.
proof that your loved one is with you, and let that evidence stand alone. If that evidence is as amazing as it stands on its own and it doesn't need a spotlight on it for anybody else. They all see how amazing that evidence is.
Well, that also takes that one piece of evidence and negates all the rest of the all the other evidence, because it should be consistently the same, right?
Mhm.
So, and it's really cool that we challenge ourselves. So I want to hold space for the challenging of I want street addresses, I want telephone numbers, I want dates, I want names. But names and addresses and all that cool stuff is just as cool as getting the connection,
Mhm.
right? So it's okay to hold space for the praise of ourselves, but I would do it after the reading. That's why I'm saying record your readings,
Yeah. Well,
because
here's
then
the
you can
other
be like,
thing
"That's
about
cool."
that, because I'm just going to be devil's advocate. What if I was able to pull a street address out? What if I was like, okay, it was 1482. And they're
Oh,
like, that was a street address, right?
mhm.
And I was like, okay, cool. But then I got everything else wrong about the spirit. I got their personality wrong. I got all kinds of other things wrong. Who cares if I pulled that street address perfectly?
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
about the more well-roundedness of the reading, right? And
That's
sometimes what if
good.
who cares if I can get the first and last name of somebody? Or those people that are like, I wrote down a magic word in an envelope. Who cares? It should be the totality of a reading that paints the picture, the person back to life, that I should be able to get a majority of yeses on the evidence that I give, and it shouldn't be just this one piece of wow evidence that's like, oh my God.
Can I share something that happened today? Just a little tiny bit of it.
Mhm.
So we did a reading today, and we brought through a piece of evidence that the person, the sitter, had asked the spirit world to bring up. And I didn't look at it as like, oh my God, I'm a medium. I was more like, that spirit world's intelligent. They did what she asked. They
Mhm.
did what she asked. They did what she asked. And all we did was just say the words. Like, I don't know what's special or not. I don't know what's special or not. I don't know what the sitter is being like. Can you just bring up pink, purple elephants? Can you please bring up tacos? right? We don't know that. But if we're just giving what we get and we say the word, it's magical. It just makes it more special for the
But
sitter.
conversely, in that reading today, if we would have just said the one thing she wanted us to say, but didn't get any of that other stuff right, it would not have been
Yes.
the beautiful reading it was.
Correct. Correct. So every piece of evidence is just as important as details. Every single piece of evidence is just as heavy, and it will feel it. Like
It's
I'm
all
telling you.
puzzle pieces that come together to
Hmm.
build
Hmm.
a puzzle.
Yep. Spirit. Okay, us establishing a connection is like the border of a puzzle, right? And then spirit's just handing you the pieces for the sitter to put together, not for us to weave this elaborate story. But really the key to a beautiful mediumship reading is bringing forward the personality of the person. I can't stress this enough. I can't stress this enough because when we bring out who the fuck they are, they love it, and they give you everything. They're just like, hey, you want my social security number? And I'm like, okay. Right. So just focus on the spirit, focus on the personality of the spirit, and just trust yourself and just celebrate yourself. Oh, I got so excited I threw my mic. But trust yourself and just pat yourself on the back of just stepping out of the way.
Mhm.
You did good, kid. You did good. And just know that there's possibilities are endless with the spirit world,
Right.
and it's not just that one moment. And we're all mediums. Every 7 billion of us on this earth are all mediums, and we can all do this work. And so it does not make us
We're all
special, but
capable. Yep.
it's we're all spirit capable.
And the other side of that is when we overpraise ourselves.
Yeah.
When we don't, because what, again, going back to that, like, we don't know what that bang on amazing evidence is. Like, we kind of put
Yeah.
in our minds, we do have goals and we're like, I want to get names, I want to get months, I want to get this, I want to get this kind of evidence. We don't know what that amazing evidence is. And so we can start being really hard on ourselves when we're not getting names, when we're not getting this, when we're not getting that. And we get really like self-critical of ourselves when we
Hmm.
aren't being able to like deliver like that amazing evidence. So we get really hard on ourselves. So again, it's that balancing of that ego, not over celebrating those wins, not being overcritical on when we have those opportunities for
Yeah.
development, but just being in balance and just rolling with the punches, going with the next piece, the next piece, the next piece, the next reading, the next reading, the next
Yeah.
reading.
You just said something that inspired me to ask you a question. Okay. So when we challenge ourselves to get like specifics, right? I want to get specific dates and I want to get specific times and all that names. Who are we trying to get those for?
Mhm.
Ourselves?
Mhm.
Oh no. Right? So why don't you just step out of the way and just give everything, and you might actually get something really cool. And you know what? Maybe the color of their lizard when they were 7 years old is way better than their name.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing, like, right?
I that literally shot up you literally made me go, okay, who are we really getting that for? Are
Mm,
we getting that to impress ourselves, or are we getting that to impress the sitter?
yeah. And here's the thing, the more that we're like, I want names, I want names, I want names, I want names. Spirit will give you names, but it's what's important, right?
they they give you the neighbors' names.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you didn't say which names you wanted.
Uh, but just take that pressure off yourself. Take it
But when we
off.
put
You know.
but we're putting tension on it. When we're like, I want
Hmm.
names, I want names, I want names, I want name, we're putting tension on that. So just open up. I'm not gonna put a restriction on what this reading has to look like, what this certain ingredients have to be. I'm just gonna give what I get. That's it.
You got me real excited.
Oh.
You did. I mean, that is literally mind blowing. Just show up and just say everything. Just say whatever inspires you, and you're gonna get some really cool shit. Because the spirit world is dope. I need to tell you how dope the spirit world is. Because when you just show up and you're just like, "Let's do this.
Yeah,
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun with spirit."
absolutely. I
Mm.
love it. Yee! Woo!
Comparison is number two.
Yes.
Let's just wrap this one up real quick because I think it's just in the name. Be you. Your spice is just as good as someone else's. You
Mhm.
don't need to read like somebody else. You don't need to be somebody else. There's already a Dana Willie. There's already a Matthew Tao. You don't need to read like us, but you can look at what we do as possible for you, but be your own spice.
Mhm. And you are going to be the perfect medium for somebody. We're not going to be the perfect medium for that person. You're going to be the perfect medium for that person. So the more that we try to fit in a certain box and try to be like somebody, and even Matt and I are completely two different readers. We are two complete different readers. We have two completely different worldviews, different experiences that spirit can use from, and different styles. And there are spirits that talk easier to him, and there are spirits that talk easier to me, and sitters that work easier with him, and sitters that work easier with me. And that doesn't make him better than me or me better than him. Everybody has their special spice. So don't put anybody on a pedestal. You are on your, and there's so many dead people out there, y'all. There are so many dead people out there. There's no reason for competition or comparison in
Mm-hmm.
mediumship.
Mm-hmm. Which leads me to number one, which I've now changed because you just said that. Treating people with kindness,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're an instrument of healing, we're an instrument of love, and we're an instrument of light. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to not put up with stuff, but we always should put ourselves in somebody else's shoes of what we're going through and being honest and with integrity and acting in the path that you feel is right for you. But kindness is a choice, and
Mm-hmm.
being kind. It mediumship to me, and you can speak and add into this, is an act of service for other people, but it will change your life and just showing up. So I feel like my number one is all of them. My number one is all of them
Yeah.
is lead with dignity and respect. Have boundaries. Be yourself. Don't worry about being somebody else. Give what you get. Know where you are and where you're feeling and know what triggers you.
Mm-hmm.
And don't blame other people, but ultimately just be kind.
Yep. I would say being true to yourself is going to be one of the biggest ways that you know you're off course.
Mm-hmm.
When you're
Mm-hmm.
not being true to yourself, when your light is dimmed, when I always say when it's not a hell yeah, yes,
Yes.
when it doesn't feel like a hell yes, when it doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're in alignment, you've got to pay attention to that. And that is one of the biggest signs that you are acting in under confidence,
Mm-hmm.
in that you are out of alignment. I really want to hone in on that kindness thing, Matt. It costs nothing to be kind.
Mm-mm.
It really doesn't. It costs nothing to be kind and to be caring of others. And sometimes if we can't say something nice, we don't say anything at all, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not in this for the right reasons, then stop. Take a break. It's okay to
Yeah.
take a break. And if you are out of alignment, it's okay to take a break from it
Yeah.
and get back
And
into alignment and get back to your why. We often talk about your why in this. Matt and I teach the why.
yeah.
What is your why for doing this work?
If it's to be famous, is it to be special, or is it to be in service of other people?
Yeah. And it may be, some people's whys might be to do this professionally, which is dope. Some people's
Cool.
whys might be just because they want a better connection to their own spirituality and to the
Yeah.
spiritual world. But you have to ask, what is your why? Why do you do this? Why do you show up and do this vulnerable thing? Sit down with
Oh,
that. And I urge every single person that listens to this podcast to sit down. What is your why? And
what is your why?
are you in alignment with your why?
Yeah. And you can spot check it and you can change it at any time. That's a beautiful thing. You can do it at any time.
Hmm.
Or you can have like a set in stone one, like I'm doing this to be in service of others, but you know what, I'd like to set a goal of I want to be on this, and I want to do this, and I want to experience this, and I want to platform this. But it all has to connect back to the original why of understanding that this is the most simplistic thing your soul knows how to do, and it's about love between one person and another. It's human
Yeah.
connection. at its core of mediumship should always be back and rooted into the human connection, the survival of the soul. And why do you want to tap into the survival of the human soul?
Yeah. And mediumship is one of the most beautiful things that you will ever see or experience in the world. And it can get muddied and it can get ugly by humanness.
Yeah. And it's all because we didn't check back into our why.
So that was a good one.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dina Willey, for going over the top 10 with me. I just want to say I love you dearly.
I love you too.
You are literally a watermelon goddess bottle
I'm a watermelon wonder.
You're Wonder Watermelon.
Mm-hmm. Watermelon.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love you all. You're in our hearts. And from me and Dana Willey, I'm gonna let you take that away, Willie.
No, we love you guys, and know that like anything that Matt and I bring to you, there's always opportunity to grow, and there's always opportunity for awareness, and there's always opportunity for you to change anything that you don't like in your journey. And we hope that you know that we're rooting for you, and we love you, and thank you for listening and supporting us. And go earn your keep. That's how I'm gonna
earn your keep.
That's how I'm gonna end this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Bye.